Hey y'all, today we are talking all about college move out, specifically move out from the dorms. Now, moving out from the dorms can be awesome and it can be more of a challenging experience than you think it will be. It is amazing how much students can fit into a very small dorm room. If you think about it, as humans, we grow to our space. So if you give somebody a 12 by 8 room, they are going to grow into that space and have way more items than they did at move-in. It is just natural human nature for us to add things to our space to make us feel comfortable and procure things over the year. So today we are going to talk through all of these logistics. This video is really for anyone who is a current college student, future college student, support person like a parent of a college student, or if you just want to know more, welcome to my channel. My name is Shannon. I post new videos on this channel every single Monday using all of my experience from working in higher education for 12 years. I specifically worked in the dorms for the majority of that, in financial aid, specifically in scholarships, and on the back end working with donors to create scholarships for students. So I'm sharing all of my insider tips and info with y'all so you can best be prepared for the college experience. Now, I'm going to break up today's video into 5 sections. So these sections are planning ahead, day of move out, items that might be helpful to bring to move out, things I would do if my boys were at college and moving out of the dorms. Currently, they're little, so we're not there yet, but this is what I would do. And common charges that potentially happen with move out and after move out, things you should just be aware of. Let's go ahead and dive into our first section for planning ahead. Now, each of these tips or planning ahead is designed to set up every college student, every support system who may be helping them with move out for success. Number 1 is to start bringing home items throughout the year. If there are things that students feel like they're not using in their room, if there's clothing items that are out of season, maybe it's sport equipment, snowboards, maybe it's just extra school supplies or decor items, things that they can part with earlier than move out, anything they can get out of the room earlier will make move out day easier. I always recommend that students at break time, if they're going home, take things home. And this includes during all breaks, fall, winter, spring break. Take whatever is clothing out of season, take whatever they don't need, and get it home or wherever they're going to be storing those items, because it's so much less work to move out less things. Now with this, something I loved actually that my dad did for me almost every year in college was he would pop up to where I was going to school a few weekends before move out, and he would take home like 80% of my items. That way on move out day, whether I was having family come help me or I was doing it on my own, I had so many less items to deal with and pack those last few days of school. You have to remember most students are taking their finals during move out, so a big focus is already on their academics, but they also need to be packing their stuff. So the more you can get out of the space, the better. Now, my second thing I would recommend is preparing for move out in advance with packing supplies. My number 1 recommendation is not boxes. Unless you're storing something in a storage unit, you are going to want bags. And this can be duffel bags, suitcases, anything that is more soft because it can be smushed into a vehicle when needed. If you have boxes, you can only shove them in so much. But bags, duffel bags, you are able to shove things in to a vehicle so much easier and have that flexibility when packing. So I always recommend duffel bags, old sport duffel bags, reusable shopping bags, those huge IKEA bags or bags you see at the TJ Maxx checkout that are massive. Those are so helpful for a move out. So when possible, I do recommend getting those to a college student early. Maybe they take them back from spring break with them or a few weeks before, so they can start putting items in those bags, maybe store them under their bed or in their closet to be able to start getting that packing process going. Now, the third expectation I have is making sure things are getting packed before move out day. Like I mentioned earlier, most students are taking their finals during move out as well. And if you wait until the last day and until move out, it will take so much longer. In my years working in the residence halls, I saw so many times where students would not start packing until their parents got there. And many times those are the students whose parents did not get there until a few hours before the building closed. Then there's this extra panic of trying to shove everything into bags and boxes, trying to get it out of the building, get it into the vehicle. So much unneeded, unnecessary stress. If you're planning ahead, if you're getting things going earlier, it just makes it so much smoother. That is an expectation to have. get stuff packed earlier. Now, number 4, if a student is going to school far away, really talk through the options they have. Is it best to mail things home? Is it best to have extra cost with extra luggage on a flight home if they're flying home? Is it best to get a storage unit because they're going to be going back to school the next year in the same area, maybe living in the dorms, maybe not? Really think through those cost benefits and what they need and don't need. If you think about it, most students are going home or they're going somewhere for the summer. That's 2-3 months. They don't need all of their belongings. They can survive without most of it. So maybe a storage unit is more economical versus trying to shove everything into boxes to mail and have that shipping cost, or paying for a ton of suitcases at the airport. Now, number 5 is if a student plans to not keep all their items, to see if their school has some version of what I like to call diversion excursion or a waste diversion. So many schools are to have some sort of sustainability program that's going to work with students moving out of the dorms where they can divert waste from the landfill. Now, it is amazing the amount of trash you see come out of bedrooms during move out. So many things that are being just trashed, things that are still good. So many schools have popped up programs where they can take those things. Some of that is unopened food items, such as like mac and cheese, non-perishable items. Sometimes it's taking any laundry detergent, cleaning supplies, even if they're open, some schools will take those. Sometimes it's taking shower caddies or the linens from their beds. Like most people don't want to hold on to their extra long twin bedding, or the foam mattress toppers that you don't need after that first year if you're not living in the dorms. So it's important for students to look into these programs, especially if they're just not going to be able to take everything home. I saw this a lot with students who were flying home or traveling long distance. For example, I live in Northern California. We had many students from Southern California. That's an 8-10 hour drive, and not everything's going to fit in the car. So many students were able to plan ahead of like, okay, it's okay if I leave the detergent, the hangers, or these organizers. Like if I want them again next year, I can purchase it because they're not going to fit in the vehicle. And then they can go take it to the donation center and somebody else can use those items. Many of these programs are also set up so current students can also shop what's being donated so they can pick up different items that will be useful to them before they get donated to different charities. Now, my last one in our planning ahead section is to make sure to check and be very familiar with the move out expectations for their college. Now, typically every school is going to post in the halls and email the students the move out instructions a few weeks ahead of time. It's so important to follow these instructions. These instructions are typically to tell your student what they need to clean in their room, anything they're allowed to leave in the room, if they have physical keys, what to do with those, if they're using an ID card to get in their room, what to do with that, if they have to do specific instructions to go physically check out at a front desk or a checkout station, or once they move out, are they just allowed to leave and peace out? It's important to follow those instructions because if you don't, they can lead to fees, and no one wants those fees. Later in the video, we'll talk about all those fees and charges that potentially can happen, but it's something you want to avoid. So following those instructions, being familiar with them, especially knowing when students have to move out of the dorms. That's like the number one. Knowing the deadline and making sure you're out by the deadline is super important. Now for our next section, day of move out. Tip number 1 is starting early in the morning whenever possible. If support people are coming up to help or a student is moving themselves out, if they're able to, moving out in the morning typically is so much better. The weather's nicer, it's not as hot, the sun is not as bright, and oftentimes there's actually not as many people. It always amazed me how many times on move out days it would get busy from like 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock is when like everyone's family would come up to help them. Obviously, that's like the hottest time of the day, so if you live in a hot area, that sucks. But also that means there's elevator lines that are longer, there might be bin rental issues or vacuum rental issues. The more people there equals the more problems. Now this one is a big one and we are going to go through all the subsets, but be prepared for this whole thing to take longer than expected. And so let's break down what those things are to just be prepared for some delays with the expectations. Number 1 is finding parking and finding parking close to the dorms. Not every school has this option. Some are going to have designated parking areas for move out, some are not, and it's just you're on your own, figure it out. It can be frustrating trying to find a spot, which is why I say coming early is helpful. But just know there might be a bit of a jog or a walk out to the vehicle. It may take a minute to circle the parking lot or the street parking to find that parking space. Now, with that, the patience is needed for elevator lines and staircases. There's going to be so many times with people moving in and out, especially if they're using move-out bins. They're going to need to use the elevator, most likely. Some people like to carry those up the stairs, power to them, but elevator lines, especially in the afternoons and on that last day of move-out, can get really long. Just like move-in, you can be standing in line for 20-30 minutes to get up to your student's floor. Depending on how many people there are, you can only fit so many people and so many bins in those elevators, and that can take a while. Same thing with the staircases. Not every dorm has elevators. You might choose, even if there is an elevator, to bypass that and use the stairs. You're going to be going up and down stairs a lot, so make sure you're wearing good shoes. I always recommend to not wear open-toe shoes during move-out, because if someone accidentally rolls over your toes with a bin or a suitcase, or you bash your toes on the stairs, no one wants that. No one needs that pain. Closed-toed shoes all the way. Make sure they're comfortable, that you can use going up and down stairs and moving items easily. Now, some other things that may take some time or could be getting a bin. If the school has move-out bins and there's a limited number and your student didn't snag one early, or there's time limits on them, it may take a minute to get a bin, so you might be moving stuff without one. Also with that, if your student did not pre-pack their items or start packing at all, that's going to take a lot of extra time. And yes, many hands can make light of that work and make it go quick, but that's time you don't need to waste. Things could have been pre-packed for the most part ahead of time. Now, cleaning. This is a big one, and as we talk about charges later on, you need to leave the dorm room clean, unless there's specific instructions from the school, which some schools have moved towards that of not requiring students to clean. You need to clean the space. So once everything is out, typically there is normally the expectation you're going to wipe down all the surfaces, including wiping out in drawers. You are going to vacuum. You're going to mop if there's hard floor. If you have a suite style where there's a bathroom or kitchen attached, clean those areas. And obviously that can take more time than you expect, because students are typically not cleaning their dorm room as often as you would like them to. So there's often more of a buildup of dust, fuzzies on the carpet, or different things, so just be prepared for that cleaning to take extra time. Same with taking out the trash. There's so much trash that comes out of these dorm rooms during move out, and typically schools are going to have a specific location to take trash bags to. Make sure you're following those signs, and know that sometimes those trash locations are a ways away from the dorms. Many schools bring in roll-away big, large dumpsters for move out, which are so helpful, but there might be a bit of a walk to get there to put that trash out. Please follow those instructions, follow the signage, put the trash where it's supposed to go. It can be so frustrating for staff when trash is just left in the room or in other random places. It's really inconsiderate. Take your trash where it's supposed to be. Now, another one in this area is cleaning out the microfridge. If your student either rented a microfridge, which that is pretty popular for many schools nowadays, or one came with the room, it's important for them to fully clean that out. And when I say microfridge, most schools have gone towards using these combo units where it's a fridge, a freezer, and then a little microwave on top. They're super convenient. They're awesome. They use less power than having all those items separate, so they're better for the electrical system for the dorms. But you need to clean them out. I cannot tell you the amount of times I have found nasty things in those fridges. Many times schools require students to unplug them and defrost them, and sometimes students would just leave their food items in there, like frozen fish sticks that have now defrosted and melted, or yogurt and ice cream that has spilled. Ugh. If there's a fridge that comes with a room, if your student's renting one, clean it out, make sure it's fresh and clean. Grab those Lysol wipes, grab some cleaning agent, make sure it's cleaned out. And then finally, day of move out is the actual checkout process. Now, every school has its own processes, but the three most common are: one, having an actual checkout appointment. So your student goes to a checkout location or station, meets with an RA, the RA goes back to the room with them and does a visual inspection, checking for any damage. Those are becoming less and less popular because it does take a lot of time for both the student and the staff member that's helping with that. But that is one option for checkout. And that does take a time because if you think about it, they might have to wait in line for an RA or a staff member to be available. Then they got to go back to their room, actually check through it all. That's going to take a few minutes. And then come back down to the lobby area. That takes some time. Another option of checkouts that's becoming more popular is an express checkout. Typically, this is when students are going to the front desk or checkout station and they are checking out of the system with the staff member working, turning in hard keys if they have them, maybe signing some paperwork. That still takes a few minutes and students need to not rush staff because typically there's questions and things they have to get done to check out a student. And then the last one, which some schools are moving towards, is just allowing students to peace out with no checkout system at all. Everyone has the expectation to be out maybe Friday by 6. When they go to the room, if you're not out, then that's a late checkout, which could be a fee, and you just need to leave the space clean. It all depends on the school, and all that information is going to be in the move out instructions, which your students most likely get emailed to them. So check those instructions. But no, there may be a wait time due to all the checkout processes that need to happen. It's important to follow the processes. It makes it so much easier on the staff to know who is truly checked out and who isn't, but also just wrap up the year with a nice bow. Just do the final things and get it done. Now let's talk about things that are helpful to bring to move out. This is my list of items that I have found over the years to be so helpful for move out. So let's break it down. So number one is cleaning supplies. And when I say cleaning supplies, I mean paper towels, I mean maybe Lysol or Clorox wipes, some kind of disinfectant cleaning spray that might need depending on the room type, or if it's a suite, it could be a vacuum, it could be a mop, a swipper mop. Whatever you're going to use to clean this room, it's always better to leave the room in a clean state, especially if it is required in the move out instructions. Now for vacuums, some schools have vacuum students can rent. Some schools have the expectation that the student does that. Some schools might have the expectation where students don't have to vacuum. I've always preferred to vacuum the room and just leave it clean as possible, less chance of charges. So that could be something you're thinking about. You might want to bring a vacuum with you. So if your student is planning to rent one from the school, go check it out at the front desk, they're not having to wait in line for a vacuum. Back in the day when I worked in a very large residence hall with over 550 students, we had 5 vacuums for 9 floors. It would take hours to be on that vacuum wait list to get the vacuum. Even when we had time crunches where it was like, hey, you can have the vacuum for 20 minutes. Even when we'd call people to bring the vacuum back, those lists are long. So the parents who brought vacuums to help their student vacuum their room sped up that process a lot. So if you have the room for it in your vehicle, I would bring a vacuum. Circling back to clean supplies, if your student does have a suite style where they are living in, has a kitchen, bathroom, or even if they just have a bathroom attached to their dorm room, bring those appropriate cleaning supplies. Bring supplies to clean the shower, bring supplies to clean the toilet, the oven, the stovetop, the sink, the fridge. Make sure to have those cleaning items because you can get dinged with cleaning fees if they're not cleaned. And like I said earlier, not all students are clean as often as they should. There's going to be soap scum, there's going to be buildup, there's going to be hair. Things need to be cleaned and probably deep cleaned. Now this next one is something I saw families bring and I thought was genius. Large trash bags. And I'm talking like the big black trash bags. Because many schools, if they are providing trash bags for their students, they're providing the itty bitty little bathroom size ones. You can't fit much in that. And students are going to have trash. If you bring the large black trash bags, it's easy for you to, one, take trash out because you're able to fit a bunch in it and easily carry it. But also, you're able to shove your students' bedding into that, their pillows, their comforter, maybe even their clothes, and just wrap it up in that trash bag and make it easier for transport and keep those items clean. So large trash bags are a must. Now, I would recommend bringing any tools if your student needs them for different furniture items. Maybe you built a bookcase for them. They have that for storage. You don't have room in the vehicle just to put the bookcase in. Bring any of those tools you need. Most of the time, the residence halls, the dorms are not going to be prepared with tools for you to use. Some schools even have the expectation if your student raised or lowered their bed that you have to put it back in the original spot it was. which can be a project in itself, so a rubber mallet is also helpful if your student's school has that expectation. Something that I saw and was super genius was seeing families come with either wagons or their own little moving trucks, those little their own little moving dollies. Those can speed up move out. I loved seeing, the wagons people use that can collapse that you use for groceries or for sport events when your kids have sports. Those can be so helpful in carrying things to the car because you're able to wheel that with a bunch of stuff in it and carry stuff. Because oftentimes students are only, if there is bins to rent out, they're getting one bin and they're going to take multiple trips. So if you all can take a trip with that big bin and a wagon or a hand cart, that's going to make it go so much faster. Like I said earlier in the video, I always recommend bags for packing things. Bags make it so much easier to shove things into a vehicle because they don't have hard sides, but also suitcases can be super helpful. One, for packing items and keeping in there, but also getting things out to the vehicle. If you have a really big suitcase and you're able to load that up and wheel that out to the vehicle and unload it, you can use that multiple times to get stuff to the car quicker and then use it to put stuff in later. So I always say bags, rolling suitcases are always another plus. And the last thing I would recommend bringing for move out is water. No matter where you're gonna be, it's gonna be a long day. It's gonna be hot. You might be sweating going upstairs, elevators, multiple trips to the car. Make sure you bring a cooler, bring some cool water and beverages for you to enjoy to replenish yourself. Now for this section, we are going to talk about if my boys were in college. Now my boys are little, they're 2.5 and 7, so we're nowhere near that. But having worked in the dorms professionally for so many years, these would be my expectations for my kids. First expectation I'd have for them is them bringing stuff home during all of the breaks. Get anything out of their room that they do not need. And if they came home for spring break or came home closer to the end of the year, I would supply them with all of the bags, reusable shopping bags, duffel bags to be able to start packing their stuff. With that, I've had the expectation that they need to be packing at least 75% of their stuff needs to be packed by the time I get there to help them move out. Obviously, they're still living in the room. They're probably studying for finals. I don't expect everything. I don't expect them to have stripped their bed, taken everything down, their clothes off of the hangers. But things they're not using, extra clothing, extra bedding items, school supplies, things they don't need, should be packed and ready to go in those bags. With that, I would do what my dad did for me. If possible, I would go up to visit them a few weeks before move-in, depending on the distance of where they went to school, to try to take a bunch of their stuff home early as well. It makes such a difference having less stuff on the actual move out day, whether or not the student is moving themselves out that day, or if family and support systems are coming to support them. I would try my best to come up a few weeks before move out, take a bunch of their stuff they're not using, at least take all their winter clothes, maybe some of their extra decor or items they really don't need for the last few weeks, and just get those out of the way so we're not dealing with it at move out. Now with that, I would also be supplying them with cleaning supplies and have the expectation that my kids are semi-cleaning their room. Now, I know that's not really going to happen much, but providing my kids with maybe some Clorox wipes or some spray, or maybe they're bringing a vacuum up if we have an extra one, could be very helpful. My goal would be more so that as they are moving things out of drawers, that they're wiping the drawers out as they go, or if they have a suite style that they are living in with a bathroom or bathroom and kitchen, that they are starting to clean those areas the weeks leading up. If they can give the shower a good scrub 2 weeks before, and that way it only needs a light wipe down when we get there, that'll save us so much time. Now, this is my one helicopter parent thing, and I will always be doing my best not to be a helicopter parent because they drove me up the wall when I worked in the dorms, but I would ask my boys to forward me the email they got for move out. Now, reason I would ask for this is so that I can best support them on hitting all those check marks, making sure they're out by the date and time they're supposed to be out by, making sure if there is instructions about cleaning, we are making sure those items are clean, making sure I'm supplying them with those cleaning supplies so that we can clean those items and areas of their room, just to make sure I can do whatever I can to support them. My goal is not to be doing this for them, but to be setting them up for success, to pack, set them up to success, to clean, to get their stuff out of this room as quickly as possible. So that is my one helicopter parent thing I would do, asking them to forward me that email. Now, of course, the day of, my goal would be to arrive early, wear closed-toed shoes, bring wagons, bring whatever we could to support our student in getting their stuff out of the room. And I would be mentally prepared for us taking quite a few trips out to the car. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. It's gonna happen. I would bring trash bags to get the trash out, bring any cleaning supplies we need, just to make the process as smooth as possible. And I would confirm with my student day of that they still have those move out instructions and that we're hitting everything on the list. So if they have instructions about what to clean, making sure we're doing that. If there's instructions about what to leave in the room or not to leave in the room, where to take the trash, or the actual checkout, if they're needing to go check out or not, I would just confirm with them verbally that we're doing all those things, which would be helpful by them sending me that email so I can just pull it up on my phone and we can go through that checklist together. Because my goal at the end of the day, besides getting my kids out of the dorm and moved out, is to avoid all charges as possible because I don't want to pay any extra fees. So that's my general process for move out, the things I would bring, what I would do if it was my kids, and things to think about and just be prepared for with delays. But let's talk about common charges. So when I mean charges, I mean extra fees that can be tacked on during and after move-in for students not meeting expectations that were set upon them. And most of these expectations are going to be provided in that move-out email and potentially posted in the halls for students to read and be informed about. RAs are always going to do their best to explain these to students, but it's also up to students to be responsible for those spaces. So let's talk through some of those fees that can be added. There often can be cleaning fees. If the expectation is your student cleans, the space needs to be cleaned. There could be fees for having a very messy carpet and not vacuuming, for not wiping down fully a kitchen or a bathroom in a suite style, or having an extremely dusty, dirty room, or leaving trash and other items just behind in the room. There could be a fee because we got to get all that stuff out, which takes staff time to get all that stuff out and clean your room. So cleaning is one of the biggest fees. And I would recommend from personal experience, if your student has a suite style, make sure all the appliances were clean. Make sure inside the oven, top of the stove top, sink, the fridge, the floor, the whole bathroom, make sure it's fully clean to avoid those charges. Wall damages is another big one. Depending on the school, they are going to have specific instructions for you on how they want students to hang things on the walls. Now, this could be anywhere from nails to tacks to putty to command strips. It just depends on the school, depends on their building, and it really depends on the paint that they have on the walls. I found that paint that is more sustainable likes to rip a lot easier. So depending on what damage happens to the walls could equal fees and charges after the fact of move out. So for example, if your student's school requires that your students put everything up with thumbtacks instead of command strips, and your student uses command strips, and when they pull it down, it takes off part of the drywall, that's a damage that could be charged for very easily. Obviously, holes in the walls could be if the school also has a policy about just using the poster putty or using command strips and your student is leaving nail holes and tack holes all over the walls. Depending on the school, that can also be a charge. There also could be charges if your student creates large damage in the drywall, such as punching a hole into the drywall, I've seen that happen, or banging furniture into the drywall to where it leaves a big dent. That could be a potential charge as well. Carpet stains. If your student spills something on the carpet, if they get sick on the carpet in their room, it's really important for them to clean it. I would recommend always sending your student at least with like a carpet cleaning spray that they could use to clean something, because if the carpet is stained and it's set in and your student's not reported it, not had maintenance come help or cleaned it themselves, that can be a fee because that's now going to take maintenance and custodial longer to get that stain out of the carpet. And I'm not talking about like little itty bitty stains. I'm talking about like the puddles, like someone threw up, someone dropped a whole thing of Tide on the floor and semi-cleaned it up and now it's stained. Really, it's the bigger things that matter with stains. Another common charge is major damage. Now, some of these can be avoided throughout the year and fixed. Some of them cannot. So for example, one of those could be broken furniture. Sometimes furniture does break. Sometimes the bottom of the chair just comes off, like the cushion comes off. Sometimes, the table leg goes out. Something happens, the drawer breaks when you're trying to push it back in. Those are things a student can report to maintenance throughout the year and most likely avoid charges for because they let someone know and they were able to fix it. But when they're found after the fact at move out, It kind of gives this vibe of like ill intent, like you were hiding it happening or you did it on purpose. So broken furniture could be a charge, but especially if furniture is broken. Like I have seen students like break apart their desk chair or like smash out the drawers of their dresser. And I'm like, how did you do this? When did you do this? Those could be charges replacing those. And I'll be honest, dorm furniture is not cheap. Most of the time, dorm furniture is fire rated. It is built to last, so they're not cheap to replace. So those could be big fees. Other major damage things could be broken screens, like screens that have rips in them, or if your student keeps taking their screen out of their window, which is a big no-no at almost every single school. Do not bend, break, rip the screens. If your student is breaking doors, whether that's the door handles because they were taping it or doing something with it, slamming it. If they punched holes in interior doors, that's always been a popular one. Or if they've just created damage in the space, there could be a charge for that. And I'm not meaning normal wear and tear when I talk about this. I mean like actively they threw a tantrum and broke something. They intentionally ripped something. They intentionally ripped something off. They intentionally bent something, punched something, kicked something. Oftentimes when students are under the influence of other substances, those can be major charges. Missing items can be another charge that you could see. Often I've seen this with if students take out their window screen and they lose it, that can be a one. Or if there's like a missing desk chair. I don't know where students take these chairs. Oftentimes I wonder that they broke it and then just didn't report it, so they got rid of it. Or if your student moves any furniture out of their room into somebody else's room, which is typically not allowed at most colleges, missing furniture items could be an issue. Or even missing appliances. If the school provided your student with a microwave in their suite kitchen and the microwave is gone at checkout, that could be a potential charge. I also want to talk about quickly about those shared spaces. If there's damage that is not obviously done by one student. So if your student is living, let's say, in a double room and it's something that's not obviously on one side of the room, that fee will typically be charged to both students. It'll be split in half between them or between how many roommates there are. Same with suites. If there's shared bathrooms, if there's shared kitchens, if things are damaged, things are not clean, that typically becomes a shared charge. So if your student is cleaning things and checking out, it might be recommended to take a video, take photos of when your student is moving out of how everything is looking. So if they're not the last one leaving the suite, they can show and have evidence of like, it was clean and pristine when I moved out, and then my roommates must have done something. So videos or photo documentation can help. Now the last fees are all about the process of moving out, and depending on the college, they may have these. One of the fees is not checking out following the checkout process, so maybe that is actually checking out at the front desk or with staff and they choose not to do that. That can be an improper checkout fee. There could also be a late checkout fee if everyone's supposed to be out of the dorm by a certain time. Your student does not have a provided exception where they've already made pre-plans with the housing department to be a little late and they're checking out late. There could be a charge for that because that is very inconvenient to all the staff, student, professional, custodial maintenance. It takes everything take longer. That can also be a fee. And then the last one of if your student is in a dorm that has still physical keys that they use to get into their rooms or physical swipe cards that they're using that aren't the student's ID and they're supposed to turn those in and they don't, that can be a fee because anytime keys are lost, we have to record the entire door. So it's not just about replacing that one key, it's replacing the locking mechanism and changing it, plus all the keys that then go to that room. So those fees add up quickly. Those are the most common fees that happen with a move out. Typically, rooms are assessed over the few weeks after move out happens, and the housing department does its best to post those fees as quickly as possible. But I want you to remember, typically, I'd say at the most, it takes up to about a month for those fees to hit a student's account. And then, of course, there'll be posted deadlines and whatnot for the students to pay those fees. So it's important over the summer to pay attention to their student account, see if any of those pop up. Typically, a student will get an email like, hey, you're being charged because of XYZ. You can see the fee on your student account. Students will also have the opportunity to dispute those fees depending on what they are and the evidence they provide. So do your best to clean, do your best not to do damage, follow all instructions, and you will avoid these fees. Alrighty, y'all, so those are all of my tips for a successful move out. Everything I would bring, everything I would do, everything I would remember to be patient about, and fees to try your best to avoid. If there's anything in this video that I did not share about that you have witnessed yourself, add them to the comments and let us know so we're all sharing that information together. If you have any questions, please also feel free to post those in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. I post new videos to this channel every single Monday. I am sharing all the knowledge I learned over my 12 years working across 3 colleges with y'all to hopefully set you up for success. I hope you all are having a wonderful day and staying healthy. I'll see you soon and happy move out.